to go to work. That's good for you.
I slept till 6 this morning.
I see coming.
Slept that late.
I see Tony's job's open. I asked him, how's that going? He goes, good. Good.
You up live? All right. Well, it is 6:30 and we're back in regular session. Item 6 is informational reports and none included in tonight's agenda. Item 7 is announcements and praise. I'd like to take a moment and pray if you'd like to join me. Heavenly Father, we bring you praise and may we live each day to bring you glory. As we submit our plans to you, may we do our best to live more like Christ and less like our human hearts. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. A few notes here. The city offices will be closed July 4th in observance of the national holiday. The Planning Commission will meet on the 5th. City Council's regular meeting is the 1st and 3rd Mondays of the month unless affected by a holiday like this week. But we are going to plan on meeting on the 3rd of July. Plan on being done by dark so we can participate in the fireworks show that the city provides from the fairgrounds. But that's kind of the schedule coming up on the next cycle of meetings. As a reminder, with the 4th of July coming, fireworks are permitted by the city ordinance from 8 a.m. until 10 p.m. on the 3rd, and then from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. on July 4th. So please be considerate of your neighbors. Please do your best to clean up all debris and be respectful of the time because, as everybody's aware, July 4th is the holiday and July 5th is a regular work day. So please don't keep everybody up if you can follow the rules. Council have anything else to add to information or to the announcements and praise for tonight's meeting?
Will there be 3 meetings in July?
So we have had special meetings in the past, with the first meeting of the rally being affected that week. I would assume we'd stay on that same schedule of having a 3-meeting July and keeping that last week before the rally for preparation work. So I think that's fair to state that it'll be 3 Monday regular council meetings in July and then only 1 on a Monday following the rally. So thanks for bringing that up, Becca. Anything else?
So they would be the 3rd, the 17th, and the 31st?
Yes. Yes. Yep.
And then the 21st of August.
Yep. Thank you. Item 8 is Counselor's Update, and Counselor Forster gets tonight's privilege, so I'll turn it over to you, Kevin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's been a long time coming, but I am happy to share that it was communicated to me that our 7th Street crossing is getting pretty close to completion. I think some information came that some paving is going to happen, and I believe the deadline was mid-July, but we're possibly going to have that crossing open before then. So I know the people living on the north side of the community across Bear Butte Creek are going to be real happy about that. We've got some other projects that are happening within our community that are maybe not meeting all of our residents' expectations, but we are working through those things. And we've got construction on Otter Drive. That's a state project that the city is overseeing a part of. And of course, we've got Dolan Creek that is closed as well for construction. You know, it shows that everyone is struggling for employees because some days it doesn't look like we're getting lots done, but these people are working hard to get these pieces pulled together. We've got projects that our city staff are working on East Main and Moose Drive, and you know, just like so many other items, we expect to see sticker shock on those. I mean, those are tough things for us to be thinking about and estimating for when things are changing, but they're what we're faced with, and we're going to have to deal with each one item by item. I personally am very pleased with how our transition team has been communicating and working in this situation that we have currently. They are being very effective. They're working together, and their communication has been greatly enhanced, and that is really appreciated because as we transition to a new city manager, when they're swinging on, swinging for the fence and doing very well, I think we're going to continue that trajectory and be the best community that we've ever been. So I don't have anything else right now.
Thanks, Kevin.
Pick up your 4th of July trash.
That's right, exactly. You said it a lot clearer than I said.
Yeah.
Item 9 is city manager's report by the transition team. 9.1 is our sales tax report. So Faye, I'll turn it over to you, ma'am.
All right, good evening, council and mayor. So for April, sales tax in the month of April of 2023, there was 0.87% higher than April of 2022. Sales for the first 4 months of 2023 was up 5.68% higher than the same period in 2022. I was thinking we were going to expect a little bit higher on the month over month, but April, I remember weather was not so great in April, so I think that could be part of our problem there. And then the tourism triple B sales tax, for the month of April 2023, these tourism-related sales tax were 5.19 higher than April of 2022, and sales for the first 4 months of 2023 were up 11.61 higher. So our triple B is looking really good still. Any questions?
Any questions for Faye? I think one of the challenges we face are some of our numbers are higher because of just the cost of everything that's gone up. So
And
we have
that's
to
true.
keep that in balance as we look at what we have on the books compared to last year.
Yes.
Any other questions, comments on the sales tax report? Item 9.2 and forward is payroll information, and Lisa's got that information.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight on the list of folks for notating in the minutes, first we have David Gilbert. He is an existing employee within the city, and he recently completed all of his certifications for the water department. So he is moving to a full-time water operator position. This is a many-year process, and he does have to take some tests and some classes for this. So I'd like to extend our congratulations to David for accomplishing that. The next one is Brooklyn Baird. She is a media relations assistant for Deb and an event staffer in the rally department. Then we have a lifeguard and an animal shelter aide, and then quite a few ambulance service employees. Some of them are full-time, some of them are going to be part-time with benefits, and then most of them are going to be like PRN, which is just like part-time as scheduled and needed. And then the last thing is a recognition for the mayor for the additional work that he has been doing on the transition team. When the stipend was originally submitted, it was just for the staff members, and that oversight did not include the mayor, although he is part and parcel with all of the work that's being done on the transition team. So the recommendation was made to include him at the stipend as well, and the council leadership, with the exception of the mayor, so the president and the vice president, did agree with that. So that is also being brought forward to notate for the mayor in recognition of all the work he's been doing as well.
Trying to fight it.
That's why I said you did not agree with this.
Any questions for Lisa? Thank you for the update. Item 10 is consent calendar. We have 10.1, which is consideration and approval of the consent calendar, through 10.9. The first action item, other than the minutes, is setting a public hearing. Following that is a bunch of final plats, and then finally a revised developers agreement. Does council wish to remove any of those items and discuss them individually?
I'd like to remove 10.9, please, for further discussion.
Anybody else from council have any of the items to be removed and discussed individually? How about public input on the consent calendar? Wish to remove any of those items and discuss them? Which one, Bernie? 10.9. There we go. Any other items? What do you have, Bonnie?
My questions are sort of universal to those plating things, so I just about have to say 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in order to be able to ask specifically about them, but there's some things I want to understand about all this replatting going on. So if you'll just cut me the latitude of that.
So we have, so on all the plats, you're saying?
Right, but I mean, some of them will overlap, so once I get a question answered, then it'll be covered. So just whatever it takes.
Just take out one of them, maybe?
Yeah.
Freely inquire about that.
So if we just took out one, you'd think that the question would be answered sufficiently, Bonnie?
Well, how about if we take out one that's taking something and making it more, and one that's taking more and making it one?
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you have a request for 10.8 to be removed and discussed individually, and then and 10.4 would be the opposite, I believe. One would be creating multiple plats into one, and the other one creating one plat into single lots. So that covers both ends of that, if that's sufficient. So we have a request on the consent calendar to have 10.4, 10.8, and 10.9 removed.
A second.
Is there that first? That first?
I'll make a motion to remove those 3, 3, 8, and 9. Correction, 4, 8, and 9.
Okay. So I have a first by Aaron to approve the consent calendar minus 10.4, 10.8, and 10.9. Is that a fair statement?
Correct.
Yep.
I'll second it.
We got a second by Tony. Any last discussion on the consent calendar? We have minutes, so we'll go ahead and roll call. Mike, we'll start with you.
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Angela?
Yes.
I am yes. Becca?
Yes.
Dean?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
And Preston?
Yes.
Brings us back to item 10.4, consideration approve the resolution for the final plat on 1027 Lizelle Street. Dave, you want to come forward and just give a brief overview of the processes being considered?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This item is a plat from Brian Ogier, submitted this preliminary final plat for the side hack saloon track of the city of Sturgis. The property is currently described as lots 1 through 8, block 1 of Connors Extension, lots 1 through 4, block 29 of the original town of Sturgis, all located in the northeast quarter, section 9, township 5, North Range 5 East, Black Hills Meridian, in the city of Sturgis. The intent for this plat is to merge all 3 of the plats into one of the property, all 3 properties that he owns, into one. And the side hack does currently carry that liquor license, but which will need to change with the plat. His intent, and I will actually let the owner who's here, if he'd like to speak, but I believe his intent is to remove the one building and increase the parking, because right now there's very little parking for his businesses there.
Questions for Dave from council on this particular item? Bonnie, do you have questions? You have a smaller cast.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so 12 lots are becoming one lot? Is that what I understand?
3 plats.
There's 3 parcels, 1, 2, and 3. The lots are all part of each parcel.
Okay, so 12 lots are becoming one lot?
One parcel,
Or
yes.
becoming one parcel. And so, and you said the purpose is in order to take out a building to make parking. What is the advantage of changing the plat? What is the why?
Which cleans it up.
So what happens if later those need to be separated again for some reason? I mean, is there any reason not to leave it like it is? I'm just looking at the.
If it needed, for some reason, he wanted to sell this building separately, then it would need to be replatted into 2 again. But I don't think that would ever, it would ever happen.
The
2 side
one that used to
axles
be the tire place and the one that's now the bar.
left in the middle.
So it just, I mean, I look at this and I look at efficiency and time that we invested in, and I just wonder, why are we messing with the plat
Well,
when it
we,
doesn't
we
really
aren't
change
the owner,
anything?
the owner is.
The landowner's request is
It's the
why
landowner's
this
request.
comes through.
So is there an advantage to that? Is there a tax advantage to having it one parcel as opposed to three? I mean, what's the I guess I don't quite get the motivation. I understand taking the building out, but I don't understand the motivation of messing with the plat.
He just wants to clean it all up and put all of his property, the buildings into one property.
The advantage might be with the liquor license, would it not, Dave?
Yeah, that could be, too, and the liquor license. Right now, the liquor license doesn't extend into the old tire shop. Correct me if I'm wrong, Faye, but I don't think it does. It only takes up the center section, so it goes right up against that building. So putting that all into one, then the application could change for the liquor license, which would then encompass both buildings, and he'd be able to utilize both of them.
Okay, so that's an explanation. That makes sense. So then I noticed Faye's comment here that the liquor license would need to change, but it doesn't say change how. What has to happen
Just
with that?
the legal description. Right now, the legal description will say, lot block of this on this parcel, and it puts it all into one, so then the legal description will change to encompass the entire new plat.
So then the liquor license would be from sea to shining sea. It would be from Junction over to the side of that other building.
Not Junction, no. It'd be,
Well, that's where the parking lot is,
yep,
if it's one.
yep. Right.
But
Right.
once it's
On the
one
application of the liquor
plat,
license.
once
correct.
it's one plat then, or one parcel.
But the council can actually say, okay, only these lots. The lots still exist, the lots don't go away, but they can say it's this parcel, but only lots 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever, 1, 2, 3 of these.
Okay, so it becomes one parcel, but the lots don't change.
That's correct.
The lots are part of the parcel. And the liquor license is by legal description of what was applied for.
And that can't be done by lot without going through all this folderol with the platting?
It can't go across the parcel lines. It all has to be one.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. Okay.
Any further discussion on this request for final plat? Public or council? Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve 10.4.
We have a first by Dean to approve 10.4.
Second.
We have a second by Aaron. Any last discussion, council or public? All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed to no. That motion carries. Brings us to item 10.8, which was removed from the consent calendar. This is kind of the reverse of what we talked about, but back over to you, Dave, please.
Which one is?
Yep, breaking down into
For the Klima.
multiple lots.
I gotta strum my way there.
All right, I'll just go right into do you want me to read the background information too?
Please.
All right. Baseline surveying on behalf of Ryan Klima has submitted a preliminary plat, and this final plat now, of lot 5A-1, 5A-2, and 5A-3 of Block 1 of Genter Wilburn Chafee Addition and the dedicated public right-of-way of 15th Street and Ellen Street. The property is currently described as Lot 5A of Block 1 of Genter Wilburn Chafee Addition within the city of Sturgis, all located in the northeast quarter of the southeast quarter of Section 5, Township 5, Range 5 East, Black Hills Meridian, City of Sturgis, Meade County, South Dakota. The intent of this plat is to split the one parcel into 3 lots, or 3 separate parcels. Lot 5A3 will continue to have the three mobile homes that are currently on it. Lot 5A2 will be used for a future home for the applicant's family dwelling, and Lot 5A1 currently has no future plans. And the lots are zoned Mobile Home 2. 2023 taxes have been paid in full as of March 18th. A development agreement was presented at the May 1st City Council meeting. Both the Klimas and the council has reached an agreement, and Mr. Klima has entered into this contract for deed on this property with George Genter. Nathan Jolly is the personal representative of the estate of George Genter and has no issues with this.
Any questions for Dave?
So who owns the property?
Klimas.
Ryan Klima does. It's under a contract for deed with the Genter estate.
Oh, okay. Okay, I didn't follow. I see now, I just didn't follow all that. The contract for deed. Was that in there? I didn't read, I read too fast probably.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Klima entered a contract for deed with George Genter, and Nathan's personal representative for
sure.
the estate.
I just went too fast. Okay, well, that makes sense.
How about council questions or public questions concerning this action of creating multiple plats on this property?
Are all the
Yeah,
access
we sure can.
I
provisions
don't
covered?
understand this.
I'm sorry.
Mike,
My
I
apologies.
distracted him.
Mike's question was,
Yes,
are
Mike.
all the access, go ahead, Mike.
When we do the reconnoiter here, what about access for all the properties?
That is, are we talking for all the lots?
Yes.
Okay, there's the dedicated public right-of-way of 33 feet that goes up, which would be
Silver?
the section line, well, it's not Silver Street, it's like 14th Street or something. And then, of course, they'll dedicate the public right-of-way that goes past those 3 mobile homes. Currently, that is private property. That's owned by the Klimas. And that is used currently for the people that live across the 15th Street crossing area for access in and out of their homes. So that will allow them easement access across public property. Does that answer your question, sir?
I think so.
Okay.
Is this the one we talked about quite a while ago, about septic and sewer and
Correct.
all those responsibilities?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other discussions on this request for final plat?
Dave, will splitting these lots allow more mobile homes to go up there? I mean, there are mobile home zoning on those, but as individual lots, there's 3 on the one lot. Forgive me for not knowing how many we can place.
Basically, they could put 1 on each one of those lots. One residence.
1 residence on each one of those lots. Why is the 3 on the further south lot acceptable then?
Yeah, we're just, because those have been there.
Grandfathered in?
Yeah, I guess you could say they're previous, non-conforming use. They've been there ever since I've been with the city, and probably before that, because I've talked to people that lived there when they were in college. So they've been there for quite a long time. So instead of telling them to remove them, you just leave them there, and it's just easier that way. It cleans that up.
Thank you.
Are they able to replace the old trailers with new?
Under the current ordinance, that would be a no. If they removed one of those homes, they could not replace it.
So bottom line, they'd have to keep those 3 homes or have a new 1 home on that, like the other lots.
That is correct. They could rehab the homes, repair them as they sit. If one of
Not
them,
replace them.
yeah, they
individually.
couldn't replace them.
Right, okay.
Did I see something that said that if they build a house on those lots, that house, since they're zoned mobile home, the house is considered an accessory building? There was something in the agreement that said
The agreement's been reworked so many times going through this process, I don't remember the whole.
I was gonna say, a home is considered an accessory building? That
It
seems.
would be considered a non-conforming use, but they've been granted that conditional use to build an actual structure. Because they've gone back from building a stick-built home to purchasing a mobile home to put up there, then back to building a stick-built home again. So by the time this is all done and everything, I mean, and they start, we could be back to a mobile home again too, so.
So they didn't want to change the zoning from mobile home to?
Not at this time.
Any other discussion on this particular action, public or council? Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve 10.8.
First by Dean,
I'll second.
second by Preston. Any last discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by stating yes.
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 Opposed to no. That plat is accepted. Item 10.9 is approval of the revised developers agreement with Vanacker Development. Mr. Marshall will lean on you for a staff report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. An amended professional services agreement with Van Acker Development has been prepared, and the amendments are in sections 2, 5, and 8 of that agreement, as well as the signature block. In section 2, the consultant's scope of services has been revised to state that the consultant should incorporate as many of the following design criteria and requirements as possible within a construction budget of $5,500,000. Those design criteria and requirements are listed as items A through S, and they are the same design criteria that gave rise to the current 3 proposals. The difference being is they're required to design to a budget. Additionally, the amendment to section 2 states that at a minimum, and only if possible within a stated budget limitation, the scope of services must include a 3 to 4 acre aquatic feature, a splash pad, floating inflatable sports park, adventure course, a playground, and picnic shelters. The final amendment to section 2 requires the design consultant to advise if it is economically feasible and to build the reduced scope project within budget. The purpose of these amendments are to create an aquatic park that the city can afford and to provide professional input into that decision-making process. Section 5 has been changed to incorporate the previous amendment, which says that the consultant must cooperate with third parties identified by the city and may cooperate with third parties with whom the consultant deems appropriate. Section 8 has been amended to state that the project will be paid, that professional services agreement will be paid from either TIF funding or public donations for the project. The reason for that change is twofold. First of all, at the beginning of this project, it was council's intent that no tax money, no expenditures from the general fund be devoted to this project. Secondly, a TIF can't be approved by the state until there's a project design for it. So the consultants have been doing their work without a source of payment, and the amendment allows the consultants to be paid for their work to date. The final amendment concerns the signature block on the agreement. The agreement, initial agreement, and the amendment were approved on February 6th of this year, and the amendment on February 21. The agreement, because of that, was approved during the tenure of Daniel Ainsley. The documents were misplaced and were not signed until April, or rather May 30th of this year, and then Mr. Ainsley signed those. There are two schools of thought about how a signature block should read under those circumstances. The first says it should be signed by the individual who was in power on the date the agreement was approved. The second says it can be signed by the individual with appropriate authority on the date signed if it relates back to the initial date. So the signature block was used from the agreement as originally provided. That signature block should have said effective as of February 6th and February 21. So those are the reasons for the proposed amendment.
Questions for Mr. Marshall from council? And I guess for clarity, if this agreement does pass, it then gives you the authority, is what that signature block does, to sign this new revised agreement.
Yes, consistent with council resolutions that have authorized me to sign as a member of the interim management committee.
Comments, questions, concerns from the public concerning this revised agreement in this process? Come on up, Bernie.
But I would like to hear from the council first. Because they can very well answer the questions that I have.
Anything else from council at this point?
I would question why the developer's agreement doesn't have access to the public land adjacent to the property included.
Say that again, Kevin, please.
The access to the BLM land adjacent to the property being included as part of the developer's agreement.
I don't have an answer for that, except it's not within the scope of the agreement.
Well, it's our agreement, correct?
Yes.
So you're talking adding an amendment to some kind of verbiage that guarantees access to the existing federal lands adjacent to the property.
Correct. So we're just covering the park piece with this agreement. Okay, then I stand down on that request.
And I think what you're getting at too, Kevin, and I've thought about this as we go through the process, is the fact that at some point in time, a lot of these questions will be answered when the actual land is transferred that's developed by the developers versus our park, where we can secure our vision with that during that process. Included to the fact of timelines and ownerships change and things like that down the road. I think part of that can be done in that agreement with the land transfer.
connected to the park, though, is the public land access. So now, as I continue to think about it and talk about it, it does seem like it would be a good item to have included with that.
Rick's looking to add something.
So this agreement is solely for the adventure park portion. Once the adventure park portion is completed and you guys decide on what the final concept looks out, that will then move forward, and we'll be back here with a plat that plats off that piece of the adventure park from the what would be considered the development part, and then that's what Mr. Marshall was talking about. You can't create. I mean, it'll all come, and at the end of the day, it's one parcel still right now that the city owns. This agreement is only for the professional services on the adventure park, on the design, and for access right now, there is a section line right away. That would take council action to vacate that as well, and that will have to come, should the developers want to vacate that. On the private portion, they still will have to petition to the council and vacate that section line. It's not just automatic. So right now, there is protection that there will always or should always be public access to the BLM.
That section line is not a reasonable public access corridor, though.
Just saying that it is there, and there's steps that they have to do to vacate that. And I think all of the concerns that you have are going to be brought up in future actions. But this is solely just for the design of the adventure park.
What would mandate public access from the adventure park to the public land?
Well, at some point in time, you're going to have to prove a plat that has lots and right-of-way, and that's when we would ask or we would work with the developer to create those access points.
Remember when we did the developer agreement for the new subdivision out on
Garden
Avalanche,
Grove,
and
Hidden Hills,
we
right.
talked about street width and green space and park space. I think that
That's forthcoming
access
yet.
could be done when we do that agreement. And I think talking about it now, having it on the record that is the intent, that is our intent, is
Yeah,
is a
they
good
still
thing,
have
too.
to submit a preliminary plat. We have to do, I mean, we haven't approved or looked at any of the design of the housing portion of it yet. That we haven't got that far yet. So all of that and all of those discussions I'm sure will come into play on street widths and access and green space. And this is just a design professional service agreement for the adventure park.
You know, a key part that does, you know, on this initial phase, when we're just talking about the adventure park aspects of it, that ties back into access, you know, onto public property for hiking, biking, horseback riding, whatnot, is that the parking there at the adventure park, as I understood it, was that parking there was also to access those trail systems. So you'd have to have ability to access those trail systems from that parking lot. So I'm not sure how that would fit within that design. Ultimately, where they're going to access may be in the residential aspects of it, but they get access to that.
Right, it'll all tie together.
Okay.
And you guys you'll have an opportunity to see it.
Come on up, Allison. I do have not a question, but a comment.
Go ahead.
You know, I think some advantages of having this contract we worked is, number one, is it has to stay within cost. You know, at this point, we've managed expectations between us and the community that we were not going to raise taxes. We weren't going to use funds from the general funds to be able to pay for that. And that's been kind of what we promised over the last couple of years when we've been having this discussion. When we got those three proposals, you know, all of them were almost double what we have available for funds. So we need to be able to scale down the scope. And I think what Mr. Marshall communicates kind of gives them the priorities, what we want. Some other stuff is kind of stuff we would like to have, but not necessarily need to have, to be able to try to get it within the budget. It's possible. They may come back and say, we can't provide you the basic bottom line stuff that you want within the budget, and that's important for us to know. If that's the case, then maybe that's another conversation that we'll have to have with the community over a period of time. Is the community willing to go another approach to add additional revenue, for this project? But, so again, we want to be able to try to be able to get this project done within the budget that we've kind of specified here with the community. The other part is just getting the contract signed by, people that are working for the city right now. So from my perspective, I think it's a positive thing, but the biggest part of it is just making sure that hopefully we can get a design that fits within budget.
As far as what Kevin was talking about, I remember when Kevin and Sam came to the City Parks Board, because apparently the Aquatics Board isn't a board, but they came to the Park Board, and we put an amendment on our approval of the park if the park had access to the BLM road. And then also part of the council's sell on moving the park location was to be able to have that BLM access. And not having that in a contract is mind-blowing, because the citizens shouldn't have to go into a residential area to park and access the BLM land when the citizens bought the Richards property in the first place, and then they will be buying the park. So you're just setting yourself up short. I mean, so it should have access, and it should be from the park. And there should be at least 2 accesses, and not a right-of-way or whatever little. It's not good enough.
If I can speak to that, the design professional has no ability to provide access. That access comes from the owner of the property, so that would be a matter for the city to provide, not the design professional.
But as we move forward, that's in the process with the designs, with the entire property in mind, that it all ties together. And the city's authority to ensure this has happened, I think, was made clear in the platting process of where we could ensure that happens.
Mayor, there will be probably, I would say, a 98% chance, or maybe even higher, there will be forthcoming another developer agreement for the private portion of
the
it.
other side.
And that's the agreement that would address the access and connectivity to the adventure park.
Right, understood. Thanks, Rick. What do you have to add, Bonnie? Come on up again.
I have some questions. Who has seen this agreement? Who gets to see that? Who has read that?
Well, the first one was out in the public, for sure. This one here, the changes that have been made to that first one are what we've talked about. It wasn't included in this packet, but I mean, it's not.
It was sent, if I may, Mayor,
Go ahead.
to all the members of the council.
Certainly.
Earlier.
Yeah. Last week, yep, earlier on.
I think that's part of the concern, the skepticism, the resistance, is that we don't know what the agreement says. And there is always that concern that when we don't know what the process is, at what point do we cross a point of no return that, oh, well, you should have brought that up sooner, because we can't see where we're going. And okay, now with the question with the TIF, tell me how the TIF could apply to this project. How would that work into this project?
That's the funding stream for both infrastructure on the park side and on the residential development side. The TIF is where the funding will come from over time, with the increased taxes on the properties from the land it currently is to develop property.
Okay, so the TIF on the homeowner side is a benefit to the developer. Is that what we're saying?
The TIF
Is
is the
for some of the
entire
developing
property.
costs?
The TIF boundaries were set 3 months ago, 4 months ago. From those TIF funds, we've designated, I'm shooting from the hip here, so I apologize if I'm off, but approximately $5.93 million for the adventure park and its design and build. Okay. Those funds are created through the development itself, but the TIF is something that the developer will take out and provide those funds to help create the infrastructure and the final product through that financing tool.
If I can, again, I'm just going off the top of my head. I believe the total for the TIF is around 16 million. So 5 million of that will go towards the park. 11 million and change is for the developer. The TIF acts like a loan to the developer for infrastructure and those kind of needs. Let's remember it's a loan, and it usually is around 20 to 25 years, right? Give or take. Is that correct? Am I correct?
If I may.
No? I'm sorry.
Councilor Zerbst, it's $4 million for the infrastructure.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
And the number you were referring to, I believe, is our current constitutional debt limit.
The 16.
Okay, sorry. All right, thank you.
Okay, so tell me those again, because I'm writing slowly left-handed. What goes to the park?
5.35 million for the park, 4 million for infrastructure.
And infrastructure is the developer is
Correct.
doing? does that?
That's water, sewer,
Roadways,
roads,
water, yeah.
So we do that, or the developer does?
The developer.
Okay.
And that's a process that the city has used with all the other developments in
Right.
the majority of the developments in town. So it's a process that we
And
we
sometimes
give.
I ask these questions. I mean, I've been coming pretty consistently for a long time, but there are a lot of people out there who are new to each process and each obstacle we face and don't understand, and I don't claim to understand. And of course, I've been a little mindless the last 3 months, but it just helps to ask those questions and have them answered again for other listeners who don't remember when we talked about the triangle and the septic tank, you know, from months back. Okay, so then you talked about the TIF and donation funds, and you said collectively that's what's paying, there's no way to pay the developer for their efforts thus far. If we don't have the TIF yet, what's paying the developer? Is that the 109 I saw
That's in
on
the claims, yep.
claims?
Yep.
And where is that money coming from?
Well, yeah, it's that comes from the Capital Improvement 212 Fund, which 2015 initially it was put in for $225,000 for a
20.
splash pad and aquatics feature, I think is what it was designed as. So where that money's coming out of is out of Capital Improvement 212 from some pre-existing budget actions in the past. We have used some of that money for other parts of this process, but there currently is enough to pay our first payment to the developers and their design team.
Well, understand that you folks are so steeped in this that you have the bird's eye view, the big picture in mind all the time. And those of us out here who are trying to be supportive and encouraging and have it come out like we want it to come out are kind of dancing around the perimeter here and just can't keep a grip on all of those details. So thank you for that.
Bonnie, if you want to see the development agreement, if you go back to the February 21st council meeting, it is on there, so you could see the developer. And then, of
But
course,
that's the unchanged one?
correct,
February which?
21st.
That's the amended one.
No, February 21st is the
Is the
original.
Is the original?
No, because then we amended part of that language.
But that was on February 6th,
Okay.
I believe.
Okay.
So the original was on February 6th.
Yep.
Okay. Because I think part of what's going on and the uneasiness in the madding crowd is rumors and suggestions and interpretations that may or may not be accurate. One of the things I heard today was the sense that, okay, what's going on here? And this is not necessarily my thought process, but I'm telling you what the vibe is. We, the city, thus we, the people, made a purchase of this property, and we're taking this little part of it and building our water park, and we're giving the developer this big part of it. So flesh that out, clarify that, because that's the sense that's happening. Why are we giving away our property, and where does it come back to us except over the years in the tax dollars from the roofs that go in? So take that and work with it.
There's two sections of the property, basically. The side where the park will be and the side where there'll be developed residential, you know, the other, what you're talking about. The city in the future will have a further agreement, and there will be a purchasing of the land that's not being used by the city for our park, that the developer will purchase and design their development within that property. Certainly no giving going on there. Certainly a process together, working together on vision, but at some point in time, the city will sell that property through a third party that will sell it to the developer to do with what is planned.
So that speaks, in the absence of those details of the process, understanding the process and what's to come, that's where we get into trouble, is that sense of it's being given, not knowing that there will be a sale negotiation coming up. I think that's a really important point of clarification tonight, because I think that's where there's a lot of unrest going on. That was really helpful. I think what would be particularly helpful to this project would be not necessarily a timeline, because time is not a predictable standard of measure, but a sequence of steps that are to come. I think that would help the public view and acceptance and understanding of where we're going with the project. But, you know, a sequencing of steps that are to come. At this point, we did our time of input on the design after we saw the 3 proposals. I saw those as proposals. I didn't see those as offers. There are people who saw those as offers. It's this, or it's that. Like it or lump it. But the door was open for us to have input on it, although there was some degree to which input was discouraged or disparaged. I hope that our perspective and our concerns and our interests and our ideas were taken into consideration. At what point will the developer give us some more ideas of where they're going, what they think they're able to accommodate, and how their vision of how this water park is developing?
If tonight's action is approved, it's a step in that direction. As we continue to move forward, they did put a pretty information overload graph when they did that presentation here at council for that time, and it was multiple colored, and it was a pretty aggressive timeline in saying this is what we're going to do.
And it was a good presentation, but when it's up there and I'm back here,
That says information
I can't get a
overload
lot
is
of it.
quite a bit.
yeah.
But as far as processes as we go forward, the concept has to be decided on by council as we move forward and what we can do. Part of this is to have the developers come back to us and say, this is what you can do with the money that you're talking about. And that's really the next step that we're waiting on is if this revised development agreement is approved, we'll wait for them to come back and say, this is what we have to say on this new approach of what we see.
Well, and you know that I understand and I accept and I support the council's position as the inner sanctum and the decision maker. But when you want support and positive encouragement on a project, it's important that those people know what's going on too. And what's hard for me is when it moves so quickly that you folks have gotten the information and pondered and digested it, and then boom, it's right here in front of us, and we have to react and respond, or we feel the need to react and respond when we didn't get any reflection time. And so sometimes I think it's unhelpful that it moves so quickly, that it comes up and down in the same go-round. And I realize with other things, you know, you have that, it gets set, and then there's the delay, and then it's moved on. But with some of these things that don't require that time gap, it would be helpful if we worked those time gaps in, or at least made more of the information available for reflection before it's coming to your table and your decision.
And that might be part of the misperception out there, Bonnie, is the fact that people believe that council's making decisions on what our park is going to be. Currently, we're at the point of where will the park fit best and what's the best choice for the first move. So we are slower than what the perception is on the street, and we still haven't made that first step of saying, here, option B is the best choice, and that's what everybody feels, and that's what we feel, and that's what we're taking as the first step, and then from that, designing around it. I think more importantly is the money's now part of it because of the great change over the 3 years since this started and the cost. We're making sure that that's understood, that we want to have a scope of a project that we can afford, and what does that get us, and that's where we're at with this.
Well, and you look at that proposal, and clearly, B was the best of those options, but could certainly use some tweaking to be better, more affordable, whatever. But I go back to the fact that I think there's a fear factor with the public that things will go to the point of no return before we saw that, and we would wish for some input and some influence, but realize too late that we were past that. So I think just more signals, more understanding of the sequence of events, what's coming down the road, and what point will be, point of no return.
You know, Bonnie, probably over the last month or so, there's been a lot of people in the community that reached out to the council. We've met with them individually. They met with the group, you know, to kind of talk this process, kind of understand where we're at, where we're going. The key thing I took out of those 3 presentations, those were all Cadillacs, and I can't afford a Cadillac. And they didn't really come up with the prices at that time. We got that a little bit later. So you know, as Mr. Mayor was saying, I think the key thing right now is, can we get a project that achieves the core things that we wanted to achieve here a few years ago with the amount of the money that we have? And that, again, that's from the TIF. That's from the stuff that they have raised funds from the Aqua Committee, and also from the proceeds of selling the residential portion of that. And that's where that $5.5 million comes into play. So at the end of the day, next step is, can you build something under $5.5 million? And if you can't, then that's where we're going to have to step back and kind of figure out, okay, what do we want to do from there? But that's the next step, is to find out, can they actually build something for 5.5?
And I guess what I'm speaking to is visibility. I don't really like the transparency thing, but visibility, I think, is really important when you're working on something this big. And I'm just recommending more public visibility.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bernie, you moved to the back. You must have got your question answered. Okay. Any other discussion on this new developers agreement and this step in the process of the aquatics park?
To circle back to the agreement, Mayor.
Go ahead.
That will be made public, correct?
Yeah, I think that's,
Absolutely.
yep, it's all part of the plan. Yep.
Have they gotten back to us on anything that they've done with the public input, with the posters out and the little forms?
We'll bring that to a council meeting and help summarize all that, yep. But there has been good input for sure. Any further discussion? Anybody willing to make a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve 10.9.
We have a first by Dean.
Second.
We have a second by Aaron. Any last discussion, public or council, on this revised agreement? All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed to no. That motion carries. Good discussion there, and definitely, like Bonnie mentioned, there's something to this large degree takes a lot of work, so we'll keep working on it. Item 11 is approval of the claims. Some pretty hefty ones in there. Questions, comments, concerns on the claims from the public? How about council? Have questions, comments, concerns?
I do, please, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
On page 9, under economic development, the Iron Horse Ranch Development downtown photo op for the total of $1,200. On page 9, it's a downtown photo op. Yes.
Lisa, you better come up to a microphone, please.
I think that's what it is. And of course, my computer.
Page 105 of the whole packet.
Yeah, it's the motorcycle photo op that we have downtown. We have 5 or 6 little kiosk areas that are downtown. I know there's like a Colonel Sturgis, and I believe this is that one.
Okay.
And they, it was Sasha Cycle Shop built the chopper that's on display down there. I think it's at Weimer's, next to Weimer's maybe.
Yep.
That one that's the big.
Okay. And then my second one is on page 19 under street department. There's a $69 claim, but the notation on it says possible fraud charge.
We had a handful of those, didn't we, that we were dealing
So
with?
when our credit card gets compromised, they still have to pay the fee on it while we're disputing the charges. So you should see a credit once Joyce gets that resolved to negate the charge. That's why I think it's marked possible fraud.
Okay, all right. So we could get a refund back on that when it's settled. Okay, all right, thank you. And then my final one is on page 11 under the rally. We have a $25,000 claim for Black Hills and Badlands Cooperative. That is the advertisement program. I have some concerns in regards to this program that the city, we've talked about and we've wanting to go forward and participating in this. However, I believe that we need stronger guarantees as far as the city having an equal seat and being a fully equal partner in this cooperative. I am not saying that we discontinue being a partner in this. However, I would like to hold the payment until we can have the guarantees in place for this. So if we're ready for a motion, I can make a motion right now.
Go ahead and make a motion.
All right. I move to approve the claims, the June 20th claims, with the removal of $25,000 on page 11. Badlands Co-op payment. The previous total was $944,886.20 minus the $25,000. The new total would be $919,886.20.
We have a first by Becca minus a claim. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second by Preston. Further discussion with the motion on the floor. What do you have, Bonnie? Come up to the microphone again.
Motion on the floor. I had some questions in the claims too. I just didn't realize that's where Becca was going to the full shot. I thought she was just talking about her 25,000, so I'd like to ask some questions.
Go ahead. Yep.
Okay, I'm on page 11, and there's about $7,000 there with AJ Screening for merchandise resale. I was just kind of wondering what that was about. And then there's another 13, 14, 15, almost 16,000 on on page 12 with A&J screening
That,
for merchandise to resale.
all of those to
Clarification?
A&J are those, the e-commerce, the merchandise that we will be consigning to different locations here in town through the rally. It's rally merchandise.
Part of that marketing supplement
Part of
we
the
had
marketing of the, yeah.
the past couple months.
So what's the total of that? That's 7,016.23?
There was 100,000 that you guys
For
had dedicated
merchandise.
to merchandise
Yep.
locally.
Total.
And 100,000 to outside.
Yep. Which I don't think we're still short of the 100,000 for merchandise at this point for the plan, and
Correct.
yep, and running out of time. So
Okay, and then at the top of that column is $3,500. It shows up all the time. I just wanted to ask about it this time. The retainer for Home Slice. What does Home Slice do for us?
Deb can answer that question. She works.
Yeah, they oversee our Facebook page, our rally website, our official Sturgis events website, and they just picked up, they're doing the post for our Sturgis liquor now also on Facebook. And I oversee the other Facebook pages, but it's very daunting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Then there's one on 13, page 13, right in the middle there, $3,300 for custom police badges. And then down,
That would be more marketing. It's going to have the wing desks
Right.
on them for the police department.
say that again?
It's badges, police badges that will have the winged S on it. It's part of our marketing. The winged S, our logo.
Instead of what they have now?
Correct.
Right.
Replacing what they have?
Yeah, I've not seen the design, so I'm not sure what's been taken off and what's been left on.
Okay.
And Chiefs in Washington, D.C., so.
Okay, and then the banner poles, those are the ones that just went up?
Correct.
So that's $330,000? How many of those did we put up?
12 total. Is that right?
They look nice.
Yeah.
They do look nice, and you know, they'll make the banners more substantial and easier to do. I'm sure that's a lot of money, though. Let me see if I've,
Someone did ask about if they had electricity or if we could put lights on them, and we can.
Oh.
There's electricity on those poles.
well, that'll make Christmas nice. Okay, and then,
That's the wing desk.
okay. And then there's $100,000 into the Vanacker development. That's down on the page 26.
That's what we talked about before with out of the 212, right? The 109. So that's to pay for the design stages here of the aquatics park. That's that revised agreement.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yep.
I thought, okay, you know what I thought I didn't see the Inc. Vanacker Development, Inc. I didn't see that as a company. I saw that as a project, and I didn't know what the Vanacker Development Project was. Okay, that's just my. And then the 13.5 with To Love Communications, the last item on that page.
That's our co-op with the state of South Dakota. We co-op with them. This is a different one than what Becca's talking about. The tourism department for the state partners with the city of Sturgis to put out our marketing for the
Okay.
Sturgis Motorcycle Rally.
Okay. Oh, it's Love Communications.
Love Communications.
Yes.
It's not Love Inc. Okay,
No.
okay. I'm having trouble seeing. Okay, that was it for me. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the claims?
I think we should talk about
Go ahead.
that $25,000.
Yep, go ahead.
I mean, I guess I know it's been talked probably more in the rally and events committees. I think the only time I've really been aware of it was that there's a marketing, state was wanting to market the rally. If I remember right, part of it is, with the other events that are going on, to be able to, I guess, maintain our market share of people. Do we think that $25,000 does support, advertising and, being a win for us, I guess, in terms of generating turnout for the rally?
I think that there's some potential there. However, upon receiving 4 videos last week of the work that had been completed, and not one frame is within the city of Sturgis. I'm sorry, I think until that is revised and our community is featured, especially when we are paying to be a part of this cooperative, I'm not saying that we get out of the cooperative. I am saying, and I'm not saying that we dictate the plans, but we sure should be receiving a say in the creative product when we are paying as much as the other partners, which are the Buffalo Chip, Live Hospitality, and the 4th one is Black Hills Harley, Exit 55.
So if we don't spend the $25,000, we are getting out of the cooperative though, correct?
But I think we can still, we're just saying we're delaying the payment until we can see the product that includes the city of Sturgis, that includes our brand. Because otherwise, without anything from Main Street or the Sturgis sign on the back, what is our return on investment for this if we're not featured as the City of Sturgis Motorcycle Rally? When they have Buffalo Chip is featured, it is very clearly Buffalo Chip. Again, it's the Black Hills and Badlands is a part of this, and they have a beautiful shot of the pigtails in the southern part of the hills. When it says there's a flash to a hotel in Deadwood, ironically enough, when it says Sturgis, it features Deadwood. And I guess for me, when you're talking $25,000 of taxpayer money and there is not one frame from within the city of Sturgis, I take an issue with that. I have a problem with that. And I think that we should be able to have a say in the creative. And I'm not saying it's all about us, but we should be able to have at least one frame in these videos.
Is Harley and Buffalo Chip, are they paying separately too?
Yes,
Correct.
we're
It's-
all paying
it's a cooperative.
$25,000. We've all been asked to pay that.
What-
It's leverage. You're not saying let's exit, you're saying
No.
let's leverage this.
Right, and I'm saying let's not pay it until we can have a guarantee that we are being treated equally, that our event on Main Street is being treated equally.
Buffalo Chip, and it isn't Harley Davidson, and it isn't Deadwood that is the bait that is dragging that money across the state from all the borders. It's Sturgis, and that's a right stand.
And I think part of it is where we're at in the process compared to the rest of the partners in the process. I mean, they've been working on it for a while. Obviously, when we said, yes, we want to be a part of it, we brought the claim forward tonight. For them to have a final product that's already been working on as we move forward. I think it's every intent for, as each stage of this process rolls out, that Sturgis will be part of this process. And I think discussions have been had, will continue to be had, that,
Well,
this is.
yes, and I hope that, I would hope that we could see a timeline. I have not seen a timeline or the rollout of what the creative is going to be. And I think that we deserve to see that. We deserve to know. And it is a 3-year commitment, a 3-year agreement. And again, I think the potential is there. But I think that we, as the City of Sturgis Motorcycle Rally, should have an equal seat at the table from the get-go before we spend a dime on this.
Would you consider going in ahead and cutting the check and then keeping it in the vault until we start seeing some of their, stuff that they're doing and see if they are putting us in?
I saw the videos. It said Sturgis a lot there. I didn't even see the pictures behind it. I just saw Sturgis. As I understand, you kind of hit it, Mark, a little bit, is that a lot of those things were designed before we actually committed to being a part of this partnership. And since it is a 3-year agreement, I guess I haven't seen anything where we're not an equal member of that partnership yet. Again, that was just the first crack, the initial ones. Again, I didn't even notice that they didn't have a picture of Sturgis behind it. They were kind of darkened out. All I saw was big-time Sturgis. So I thought, from my perspective, if we're trying to get people that they have no idea, most people, what Deadwood, Sturgis, Spearfish looks like. They just see a small town. But it said Sturgis, didn't say Spearfish. To me, I thought it was an effective way of communicating, be a part in that partnership of getting people interested in the Sturgis rally. But I do agree. I would hope, and I have no reason to believe the state would not want to have a good partnership with us if we're going to be doing this over 3 years. Becca maybe has more insight on that than I do. But from my perspective, I do think that they will work with us as we continue to roll this out for the next 3 years.
We have a sit-down meeting in the works with Tourism Director Hagan, with Melissa from Black Hills and Badlands Tourism, and Mike Giannossi, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing his name correctly, from Tourism South Dakota. The creative at issue was developed before we were a participant, and I certainly respect Councilor Zerb's position, and will work to achieve that goal.
Can I provide an update? I did speak with Michelle today with Black Hills Badlands, and the day that we talked about providing them with more information, I put together something that was shared with them on Dropbox that did have photos of Sturgis and videos of Sturgis. So they do have that in hand now. And I asked her how, she said that they would certainly fit in the landing space on their website. And I said, how do people get there? And she said those ads that went out, when they click on them, it will send them to this landing spot. And hopefully we'll see more photos and videos of Sturgis when they get to that position on the web.
I kind of agree with Becca, though. I probably got more history here than probably anybody in the room, but we've always kind of taken a back seat when it comes to Badlands and lakes. I think we need to hold our feet to the fire, like Becca says.
And yeah, go ahead. If I may, for somebody that's involved in the process, so you say it's a 3-year, what does year one look like? Is it this one video and done? Are there more videos coming forth within this first year? If you could just help me out with that.
Okay. What we have seen so far are the videos, and we've seen ads that are going to be run in the Milwaukee area during their 120th celebration, reminding people in Milwaukee that Sturgis is the original rally. I can't answer specifically as to what other campaigns will follow this year. I've been told that there will be additional advertising creative developed as we progress towards rally. And that is information that I was told I would receive from that meeting with Hagan, Melissa, and Mike.
Thank you.
Any other discussion, public or council? We do have a first and a second on the floor to approve the claims minus the $25,000 at this point in time. Last chance for discussion. We're paying bills, so we'll roll call. I'll start with myself. On the motion, I am no. Angela?
Yes.
Kevin?
No.
Tony?
No.
Mike?
No.
Becca?
Yes.
Dean?
Yes.
Aaron?
No.
And Preston?
Yes.
Well, I don't think we got 6 in either way.
It's 5 to 4.
5 to 4 takes a 2/3 of the sitting body of the council to approve claims, to spend money. So that action to pay the claims is basically null and void. Certainly a need to pay the bills as the city of Sturgis. So I entertain more discussion and a possible.
Mr. Mayor, could I make a motion for reconsideration?
You are one of the people that made the motion, so yes.
I would like to make a motion that we reconsider my claims motion, which was to remove the $25,000 Black Hills and Badlands bill.
So we have a request to reconsider the motion. First is by Becca, who was the second on that. for
Yeah, I'll
original
second
motion.
that.
It was
It
pre-
was me.
I think procedurally we have to have the second, have that second.
I'll second.
So we have a first and a second to reconsider paying the claims. All those in favor of that motion, please indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed to no.
No.
So we have
I'm
8 to
confused.
1 on reconsidering the claims. So with that being stated, is there someone willing to make a motion on the existing claims?
Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve the June 20th claims. The $944,886.20 minus the $25,000 claim to Black Hills and Badlands Lakes Association. The total would now be $919,886.20.
So we have a motion on the floor to pay the, you're killing me here on procedure. Might need some help, Marshall. We have a motion on the floor to pay the claims minus the 25,000.
That is correct, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
So we have a second by Mike. We have a first by Becca, a second by Mike to pay the claims minus the 25,000 to Badlands and Lakes. Further discussion on this motion? None being heard. We'll go ahead and roll call again. And I want to start with myself again, and I'm no. Angela?
Yes.
Kevin?
No.
Tony?
No.
Mike?
No.
Becca?
I'm a yes.
Dean?
Yes.
Aaron?
No.
And Preston?
Yes. We're stuck again.
We're at the same spot. So again, bills are not paid with the action and the vote.
I think I misunderstood the vote.
I think
That would
so.
be
I
for
think it was
non-payment.
Mike.
Yeah, I think so too. So why don't you make a motion to reconsider again with the same motion? Does that make sense? Because that's what we're trying to go for, right?
Yes.
Can we just back up a little bit? Maybe. So what was your second? What was your
It was exactly the
Exactly
same
the
as the
same.
first.
But Becca, the claim by Preston, there was, another one was out to just
It's to
Yeah.
reconsider, which
Yeah.
means it brings
it
back up for a vote. Yes. Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
for the second time, I would like to make a motion for reconsideration of the claims.
So we have a first by Becca to make a motion for reconsideration of the claims. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We got a second by Preston. The first and second of the original motion have made the first and second on the reconsideration. All those in favor to reconsider the claims?
Let's make this clear this time.
Well, we still have to.
What does a yes vote do and what does a no vote do?
Well, currently, a yes vote would make us the ability to reconsider the claims.
To
So
vote again.
To vote again,
have a
to
third
have
vote.
another motion.
Yeah.
So all those in favor of the motion to reconsider the claims, please indicate by stating yes.
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 Opposed to no. We're back to square one. Brings us to the ability to reconsider the claims. Do we have a motion on these claims?
Mr. Mayor, I again make the motion to approve the June 20th claims minus the $25,000 bill to Black Hills and Badlands Association. That brings the total of the claims to $919,186.20.
We have a first on the floor by Becca to approve the claims without having the Badlands claim included. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Angela. For clarity purposes, the motion on the floor is the claims removing the 25,000. If you vote yes, the claims will be paid without the 25,000 being included in that claim list. If you vote no, the claims will not be paid minus that inclusion of the claim for the 25,000. Any last discussion? I will start again with the vote on the motion to pay the claims minus the 25,000. I am a no. Angela?
Yes.
Kevin?
No.
Tony?
No.
Mike?
Yes.
Becca?
Yes.
Dean?
Yes.
Aaron?
No.
And Preston?
Yes.
Bills are paid. 6 of the sitting body have approved the claims minus the 25,000. Clear as mud. Item 12, Board of Adjustments for variance, use on review, or other administrative appeals. This is pursuant to codified law by the state of South Dakota. We adjourn the council meeting and meet as a Board of Adjustments for the following items. The item considered is a variance at 1901 Jody Street. The first item is to have any motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
may I interrupt briefly? Our finance officer has a comment.
So we're still 5-4.
Mike just moved over to the other side, which just changed the way.
Well, then we don't have bills paid. See our accountant? I miscounted.
How about a show of hands?
That's easier.
So can they consider, as a procedural question, can they consider the claims and then do the 25,000 separately?
They certainly could. They could.
That's what I thought was happening when you did
And
that second
my-
one. That's what I thought we were doing, is we got rid of,
So we're going back here. It's 5-4, so no bills have been paid. Not when we're spending money. We're spending 914,000, and so it has to be 2/3 of the sitting body.
When is that meeting, Mr. Marshall, that you were going to have?
The meeting has not been scheduled. May I make a suggestion
Please.
as how to proceed?
Forward.
Perhaps council would entertain a motion not to pay the Black Hills and Badlands Association bill, period, or to remove it from the claims. I think that would clarify the issue before council.
but that's what they've been doing, haven't they? Been removing?
Correct.
Well,
It makes it way more definitive.
well, it gives them the opportunity to approve claims without it.
Right. So we need a motion by the first and second to reconsider the claim.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
You want to do that again for the 4th time?
I mean, so we're just I don't understand how it's any different than the motion that I've made the last couple times to just remove it. Isn't that what I
Correct.
tried to do? I don't know.
Well, I think the matter of clarity would be to say, don't pay Black Hills and Badlands in that stark of terminology.
We first need a motion to reconsider
Yeah.
for procedure.
I'll make a motion to reconsider.
I think it has.
I'm not sure that you're,
Yeah, it has
that
to be
you
one
can
of the-
make that motion.
It has to be one of the initial
I
first.
apologize.
That's
No worries. You just want to pay the bill.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to move for reconsideration of the June 20th claims.
We had a first by Becca to reconsider the 20th claims.
Second.
There's a second by Angela, and Angela was a part of those processes already in that. So we have a first and a second to reconsider. All those in favor of the motion to reconsider the claims, please indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed, the no. All right, we're back to reconsidering them.
The upside of this procedure is that if you vote separately to remove the claim, that is not a motion to pay the claims, thus it's not subject to the supermajority rule required to approve claims.
Okay. So do you got that for your motion? Anybody? That's willing to make one?
Can you move to delay it till the next round? That gives you time to.
Well, I mean, I thought that's kind of what we were doing because our city attorney is still going to a meeting with them. So I thought that's what we were doing, is we were still going to be in discussion with the cooperative. However, we were not going to pay it until more discussion was going to be had on the timeline of creative. What exactly are we getting for our money this year? How many campaigns are there going to be? Also, when will the images within the city of Sturgis be included in any kind of creative? Is it too late for our images to be included in this first round? I mean, to me, these are substantial questions that should be answered.
So can the motion include a simplified until? Remove it until?
I don't know.
All of an until? And not that detail of an until?
That's conditional, and I don't think it's appropriate.
No. So we have the opportunity to reconsider and pay the claims tonight. Is anybody willing to make a motion?
I'm going to make a motion. I'm just trying to figure out how to word this, but, you know, the bottom line is, can we strip it out it through a motion that allows it for consideration for the next meeting, once or whenever after the meeting that Mr. Marshall has? So it does come up for consideration again.
I think the discussion in this process has rooted that out for sure. I don't think in a motion there can be the conditional, we're going to pay it later kind of deal. That would
I'm not saying we're going to pay it later,
right?
With more information.
Right.
I would make a motion that we would strip the $25,000 for this marketing to the state of South Dakota from the claims. And once Mr. Marshall has completed his meeting, that we'll revisit this issue at a future date.
We have a first by Aaron to pay the bills minus the $25,000 for future consideration. Is that a fair statement?
I don't think that's a fair statement, because given the divide, that's not going to get approval, not meet the supermajority requirement. If you simply move not to pay that one bill pending further information, that would be subject to a regular majority vote. Having done that, you can go on to pay the remainder under a second motion.
Now that confused me more.
So to remove that 25,000.
But his motion was, I think, the opposite of what you're saying, Mr. Marshall. Counselor Jordan's first motion was to remove the Badlands and just consider all the other bills and then have an opportunity for the second consideration to pay just that one bill. Is that what you're
I think
saying?
you're blending the two together. I think it's more appropriate, the subject of two separate
Right,
motions.
right.
The first motion being remove the $25,000.
Okay.
Period. That claim can be resubmitted.
Right.
If, and the council reconsider it upon more information.
Is that in line with what your motion was, Aaron?
I guess I'll remove mine. This probably falls more in line with Becca with her motion, her original one. Because essentially you're just wanting to remove the 25,000. We're going to vote on that. You don't need a supermajority on that particular issue. And then we can revisit the claims without that in there, because we know what the vote's going to be.
Okay. So we're back to needing a motion.
I would make a motion to not pay the claim for Black Hills and Badlands.
We have a first by Dean to not pay the Badlands, Black Hills Badland and Lakes claim. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Becca. Any further discussion?
So just to be clear on this, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
a yes vote will mean no payment for Black Hills and Badlands.
Correct. So a yes vote is no payment. So any further discussion? None being heard. Again, I'll start with myself on the motion, and I am a no. Angela?
Yes.
Kevin?
No.
Tony?
No.
Mike?
Yes.
Becca?
Yes.
Dean?
Yes.
Aaron?
No.
And Preston?
Yes.
With that, the motion carries 5-4 to remove the Badlands, Black Hills Badlands and Lake motion. Is there a,
I'd make a motion that we accept the claims as they are now.
we have a first by Aaron to accept the claims.
I'll second.
We have a second by Tony and a third by Preston. Any last discussion? Please hold the applause. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed to no? Please note unanimous for roll call. Got through that, didn't we? All right. Sorry
I
about.
apologize for
No.
being a lawyer. Thank you
No,
for your
we had to work through it
patience.
correctly. So now we're on 12. Board of Adjustments, Variance and Use on Review and Other Administrative Rules. I adjourned the meeting to meet as a Board of Adjustment for the following agenda items. 1901 Jody Street. First item I want to bring up is any conflicts of interest. I think it's fair for myself to state that over the past 13 months, I have spoke with the applicant privately about plans and future solutions for this area, so I must recuse myself from this Board of Adjustments. Any other conflicts?
This is a relative of mine, so
Okay.
I'm not sure if that would preclude me from being a part of that discussion also.
I guess the defining point would be any kind of active discussions on it in particular. Have you guys had any active?
No.
It's a Marshall read, but I think we're okay there for conflict.
No discussions and no pecuniary interest,
No conflict.
then you're no conflict.
With that being said, and myself being recused, I would pass the gavel over to the president to chair this meeting. So it's all yours, Becca.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Giving the informational report this evening for the variance at 1901 Jody is Mr. Smith.
May I swear the witness, Madam President?
Yes, please.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you.
Thank you, Board of Adjustment. The item before you is a variance consideration for a property at 1901 Jody Street, property owned by Mr. Roy Jones. Some background information. Mr. Jones is the owner of the property that contains two mobile homes located at 1901 Jody Street. The property is described as Track M of McKee Addition. Property is owned medium-density residential housing. The applicant is requesting a zoning variance to the zoning ordinance to have 2 mobile homes remain on the same parcel. The discussion, homes that are mobile in nature, not set on a permanent foundation, are not allowable in medium-density residential. The property is non-conforming to its zoning district as there has been 2 mobile homes on this parcel. While this is similar to the existing conditions found in the surrounding neighborhood, the surrounding parcels are zoned Mobile Home 1, privately owned mobile homes on leased ground. On April 25th, 2018, one of the homes was damaged by fire. The landowner was advised several times to remove a damaged structure, but if the home was removed, it could not be replaced per Title 18, Article 6, non-conforming buildings or structures and uses of land. If a non-conforming residential structure is damaged to the extent of more than 50% of its replacement cost, it may be restored by the person who is the owner of the structure at the time it became non-conforming use, and if the restoration is completed within 1 year from the date of damage. However, Section F of this section of the ordinance states that the right to operate and maintain any non-conforming use shall terminate whenever the structure is damaged, destroyed, or becomes substandard beyond the limits of repair. Per the letter dated on October 29, 2019, rehabilitation was not accomplished within the time set in the ordinance. The damaged structure was removed in early 2022, and a new mobile home was moved in shortly after to replace the damaged one. There were no permits preemptively obtained for this move. The action was in violation of the ordinance, as Section D states that if a non-conforming use is abandoned or discontinued for more than 1 year, the use shall not be reestablished. However, there is documentation on record to indicate that the landowner was properly notified of this condition via certified or registered mail. Regardless, staff recommended that the Planning Commission deny the request for the replacement of the mobile home to remain on the property and to set a time limit to remove the structure off the property. When the Planning Commission, if the Planning Commission would have recommended approval, the request is to set a City Council public hearing, which we're at today for the Board of Adjustment. The building inspector has prepared a list of conditions that would need to be fulfilled prior to any final approval to allow the mobile home to remain. This was presented to the Planning Commission on August 2nd, 2022. Mr. Jones was present on behalf of the request. He said any violations were under a previous owner who was a family member, and that the mobile homes were tapped individually for water and sewer services and addressed separately with at least 40 feet between both buildings. Commissioner Rabenberg of the Planning Commission said that since the surrounding area is owned as Mobile Home 1, the applicant could consider replatting the property and zoning the portion with the 2 mobile homes. Several commissioners agreed that this could fix the nonconformity of the property. Laura Abernathy, a former employee at the time, said that the building inspector will still need to inspect and sign off on the structure. Commissioner Kirk asked if the city ordinance had an age limit on mobile homes that can be moved in, and Abernathy at the time said there is not. The commission discussed setting a timeline of 90 days to see some progress being made to replat or rezone the property. Motion to deny the variance request was moved by Rabenberg and seconded by Kirk. Members present carried unanimously. No such action was done at this point by the applicant. At this time, the applicant wishes the council to approve the variance as originally submitted. Are there any questions?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Smith, for that report. Are there any questions for Mr. Smith from council or from the public? And as a reminder, if anyone is wishing to speak, we ask that you do take an oath for the board, please. Okay, Mr. Jones, if you'd like to come forward. Our city attorney will will give you the oath, please.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And if you'll state your name, please, and your address for the record.
Roy Jones, 341 Ninth Street. The property that you have listed is 1901 Lozelle, or Jody Street. Is it where the original trailer sat in 1976 it was put there? And the trailer next to it, I think, was put in 81. And if you go and look even right into the water department and look, the house that the trailer that I moved off of was 1901. And on that same parcel, right next to it, the city bills that company or that trailer for water and sewer at 1903 Jody. So in my opinion, there's two different addresses here. I'm not trying to put two trailers on one address. I'm putting it on two. Because the second trailer is at 1903 Jody. And mine sets on 1901. And when I told them that I was going to bring my trailer from Wyoming after I retired and put it up there, nobody told me that I had to get any other authorizations, that I had to put any kind of a thing on forms or anything like that to move my trailer in there. And after I tore the other trailer down at a cost of almost $10,000 away and moved the other one in there, then they stopped me and told me it can't go any further. It has to stop there until we make a decision. Well, then after it was found that I couldn't put it there, after they denied it, the variance, then I can't tell you what the date was. I was in tractor, but the planning commission had the trailer moved off of my property off of where it sits right there, and moved it to the south side of the driveway. Granted, it made it easier to work on, so I could remodel the trailer and put new siding and stuff on it, but the guy that moved it called me when I was halfway to Shadron and tell me they was moving it, you know. And as far as the basements that's underneath it, my dad put that in there as a storm shelter. I mean, I seen no reason to remove it until the guy that went to move the trailer tried to move it without pulling the tires, putting tires on it, and tore part of the basement wall down on one side and then on the front part of it. So, I mean, the basement can be rebuilt, but so I haven't made any improvements. And I definitely haven't replatted it because right now I'm being taxed on both the property, on both of them are being taxed as a mobile home lot. And then where the trailer is sitting right now, I got taxed this year $451 I was assessed for storing it on my property. So not only am I paying taxes on both lots, I'm also paying paying taxes to have that set on a lot that I didn't, you know, where it was moved to because now they're charging me a storage lot for it. And so I just think that I'm not being treated fair. I mean, it's two different addresses that we're talking about here. The trailer I'm moving in is a 1981 4-bedroom trailer. I've lived in Wyoming for the last 20 years. And it's sitting there, you know, I towed it over here. So I'm just requesting that I can put my trailer back there and have it rented out and try to make some income off of it. At this point, I've got almost 20 grand in this place. So.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jones. Does the Board of Adjustment have any questions for Mr. Jones? All right.
I guess I have a question.
Okay.
Mr. Jones, did you not receive any letters? Because I think it was said that letters were sent to you. Did you not receive any?
I haven't got any letters on it from. The last one I got a letter from was, at that time he was the city engineer. He just retired over here. Yeah, that's the last time that I talked to anybody on the trailer. And then,
And when
and I
was
tore the front of the trailer off. There was a there was a front room, an addition had been built onto the front of it, and I didn't feel that it was safe, and so I hooked onto it and tipped it over so I could tear it apart, and that's when I was notified by zoning that it was gonna have to be repaired or removed at that time, and I just removed it. I mean, I had a logging truck come in and the thing, and they just picked it up and put it in the garbage, literally everything.
Right, and that was after the fire? Because one was
Yeah,
damaged by
that
fire,
was after
so
the
that was
fire,
after the fire.
because-
Okay.
Mr. Rivera come up and checked the trailer, looked it over, and he said, well, it only has about $3,000 or $4,000 damage in it, you know? So you can rebuild it. So I went down and got a building permit. But then as I got closer to retirement, I just decided, well, why not just take this trailer I have, which is newer, has an extra more bedroom on it, you know? A lot nicer trailer, and just put it on there. And so that was the decision I made. I didn't know that I had to have authorization to put the trailer there. I mean, it's my property. And there's been a trailer sitting there. So, you know, it'd be just like under a grandfather clause. Why can't it be put under a grandfather clause, is what I'm asking. I mean, I don't understand why not.
Thank you.
How about anyone else?
Yeah, just to clarify real quick, when were you notified that it was going to be moved, and who again removed the structure damaging the basement wall?
Red Wing, or Red Feather, Red Feather,
And who employed him?
he does.
No, I mean, who directed him to move said trailer?
Brittany, or she works with Dave, I can't. Yeah, Brittany Regals.
The city.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Correct.
asking. It was the city that was directing it to be moved? Okay.
You said yes, okay. How about any further questions or comments from the board? From the public, are there any comments speaking against the variance?
I still have one question.
Oh,
for
sure.
Dave.
Okay, sure, Mr.
I'll
Jones.
say, Dave, I understand that they sent out them letters, okay? How many of them did you get back?
Or is a question for Mr. Smith?
I don't think that the witness should be allowed to question the city's representative when the witness is the one who's testifying. He can call him back if he'd wanted to,
Okay.
just as a matter of procedure.
Oh, okay, all right, okay. Yeah, sorry. Sorry,
They
Mr.
changed
Jones, those are
positions when he gets
procedural,
back.
yeah,
He has to
it's a
make the information
procedural,
because
okay.
They did send out the letters, you know, that asked people if they would vote
Sure.
for it or against it or
Okay,
whatever. So I'd like to know how many of them were returned and how many weren't.
okay, all right. And I think that's a question that we could,
And I went
Have
to
answer.
try and ask it beforehand, but then,
okay.
Just to clarify, how many lots are we talking here? One lot? Two lots? On the property?
It's one parcel.
And, and on that, you're authorized to have one trailer?
Can Dave come up?
Okay, yes, so we'll have Mr. Smith come forward and answer the question from Councillor Bashand.
So, the property in question is zoned medium-density residential housing. Under our current ordinance, mobile homes that are mobile in nature, like these two that are currently, the one that's currently being lived in, the other one that he has moved in, are not allowed in medium-density residential. So, technically, they're not supposed to be there, but they were a pre-existing non-conforming use from 2 and 81 is what I believe he said the other one was put in. 76.
So, Mr. Smith, sorry.
That's okay. With that being said, then once the second trailer or the first once a trailer is moved off the property, that grandfather clause is null and void.
Yes, once one of the two previously existing non-conforming uses goes away or grandfather clause, then you cannot put one back in. That's why we're here, he's here requesting that variance.
Property be rezoned? And is that something, I don't know which one of you I should be asking. I mean,
That'd be
Mr.
for Dave.
Jones,
Yeah, for Dave.
would, I guess, could it be rezoned?
It was requested that I rezone it, okay?
Okay.
And like my taxes have went up almost $4,000 in the last 2 years. And if I rezone it, that means that I take an acre of ground and make it into 4 lots, okay? Then I am taxed individually on each one of them lots. So you would have to take into consideration how much a lot is as far as the county and the city are concerned. And then, and what the taxes would be on that. I have 10 acres sitting right there.
Why is it you'd have to turn it into 4 lots? I guess that I don't understand. You couldn't just rezone that one to be a mobile home?
They told me I had to have four there.
I wasn't at that planning and zoning meeting, so I don't exactly remember what was said. I do know that what I read through and talked with Laura is that one of the recommendations was replatting or platting off a section where those are at and replatting and rezoning that section to mobile home because mobile home 1, because there is contiguous mobile home 1 across the street. I don't believe that was palatable for Mr. Jones because of the tax implications that it could be. I don't know where the 4 lots or 4 things came involved in that. I don't know where that came from.
Because if they just did
Draw
the
a line
whole
right down
lot.
through the center there where Jody Street is, to join up clear over there, where Jody Street would join up clear over there with, I believe it's Daniel Court, where you got that little kind of a round circle there. And then they wanted lots on both sides of the street to be plotted. So I would have had to put in, so that would have, 4 trailers would have been an acre of ground.
So I guess that's confusing to me, why you couldn't just rezone that one whole parcel as mobile home and then have 2 mobile homes on it? Could he do that?
You could rezone that entire 10 acres that's there in a mobile home 1, and then he could have the 2 mobile homes in the existing location.
And that wouldn't affect his taxes?
I
like
can't
he's saying?
answer
I mean, because
that.
it wouldn't be different lots, it would all be,
It'd just be one parcel, one rezone. I believe that was one of the possible recommendations too at planning and zoning. I would have to refer back to the planning and zoning minutes from quite a while ago when that went to planning and zoning.
Because Mr. Jones, if that didn't affect, if you rezoned the entire parcel as mobile home, I mean, if that's your intention to just have mobile homes on it, and you could do that, and it didn't affect your taxes, I mean, is that something that you would consider?
If it didn't affect the taxes, I'd consider it, but so you're asking me to make everything in one parcel, which that would be my lot at 341 9th, my lot at 343 9th, my lot at 1901 and 1903 Jody. And so then I'm gonna rezone it clear back to Daniel Court. I guarantee you they're gonna change.
Oh, yeah.
I guarantee you they are going to change the taxes. Because they're gonna say, well, you can have this many mobile homes in here. We're gonna have tax on every one of them lots, because right now they're taxing me on 2 lots. And when the mobile home was moved off of my lot and put on the other side of the driveway, on the south side of the driveway, which it was moved probably 50 feet, okay? Then they charged me another $455 or $51 for storage on that trailer sitting on the other side of the driveway because it's still on my property. And I still paid the lot rent on both the lots. Or I still paid the taxes on both the lots for the year, even though there isn't trailer sitting on it and hadn't been almost all year. I still had to pay taxes on it as a mobile home lot.
I guess I don't know how they tax on that, if anyone else does, if they just tax based on what you have on it.
No, Mr. Cooper told me from the tax office, that's the way they done it. So I'm paying taxes on, on something that's is set there. I have no way of recovering any money at this point in time. As far as I'm gonna go, I'm not gonna say anything else, but it is trailer house all the way at both sides, so. Mike lives right up the street in the trailer.
What's your future use for the property?
Right now, as it stands, I'll just keep cutting the hay off of it, Mike. I mean, it's my family's property,
I understand.
you know? And I just paid for it. I took the rest of my retirement, I paid it off. I mean, it's mine.
The taxes are never gonna go down, they're just gonna go up.
They did go down. My taxes for the last 5 years have dropped over $700.
Wow.
And then in the last 2 years, they went up $3,700, so. I guess I could put it all together and then go in and say, well, let's just put it all under the fact that I'm 67 and give me 20% off the whole tax bill.
So
And then what's that cost everybody? You know?
both trailers are unoccupied at this time?
One of them's occupied right now,
Okay.
and one trailer isn't on the lot because it was moved off the lot, Mike. It's sitting on the south side of the driveway. Do you know where the property is, where you come up 9th Street?
I do.
You go right straight past all my property and go to the top of the hill where you turn to go to the water tank up there. You can see both trailers up there. One of them's sitting this way about 50 feet.
I don't see any way.
I just figured there'd be where I could just have it under, grandfather clause and have it grandfathered in. And I mean, they're gonna build trailer courts all around me. It just depends. At this point in time, I don't wanna do anything with it. It's in the future maybe, but not with the way the economy is right now. I'm not gonna try to borrow money against it to put in any kind of a secondary housing area. There just can't happen with the way money is right now.
Any other comments or action on item 12.2?
The trailer that you're showing right there has been completely re-sided and repainted. New windows were put in it.
Mr. Smith, those conditions that Ms. Regals put in, if it were to be approved, it then didn't pass planning and zoning with those conditions even, correct?
No, planning and zoning denied the request and made the suggestion to Mr. Jones that he cut a parcel out or replat the whole property or remove the home within 90, or see something within 90 days. That 90 days came and went, and that's we're now here.
Thank you.
And it has taken 3 months to get back here, because I was to come before the council, I believe in February. But I had it removed from the agenda that week because the trailer that I was wanting to put on the lot just wasn't ready. I still hadn't got the siding on it and stuff yet. And so I couldn't see no sense in asking through the planning commission. So we've been almost 3 months doing this. I sat here in the back row for the last 3 weeks because I was told to be here. And that's where I sat, was in the back row. Nobody ever called. So.
Well, I'm sorry to say, Roy, I don't think we got any play here.
Yeah.
I really don't. I'm sorry.
All right. I'd like to ask if there are any final comments regarding this issue on the variance for 1901 Jody. Any final comments? So hearing none, is there a motion for any action on the consideration for this variance from the board? So, hearing no motion, I would rule that the consideration for this variance dies for a lack of motion. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Smith. Thank you, Mr. Jones, for coming forward. And I will adjourn this Board of Adjustment for the June 20th meeting, and we will resume the council meeting.
Item 13 is public hearings. 13.1 is to approve an SEL during the motorcycle rally. I've got Faye down for a staff report here briefly.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Yes, we have a request for an SEL for the Oasis Bar and Fireside Lounge for serving while events and promotions are held at the Harley-Davidson Rally Point during the 83rd Annual Sturgis Motorcycle Rally, August 4th through the 12th. All paperwork has been received, and we do approve from the staff.
Any questions from council for staff considering this special event license?
Move to approve.
Got a first by Mike.
Second.
Got a second by Kevin. Any last comments, questions concern public or council concerning this SEL? None being heard with a first and a second on the floor. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed to no. That motion carries and that SEL is approved. Item 13.2 is Resolution 2023-35. This is a street closure during August 5th, and Mr. Bush has got our staff report. De facto.
Evening, Mayor, members of the council. Up for consideration is a temporary road closure of Dakota Street from Fulton, proceeding east to the alley. It's approximately 150-ish feet. On August 5th, that will be the first Saturday of the rally from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. for the 18th annual Fulton Street Bash. This is an event that has taken place for the last 18 years where they bring in several cars, hot rods, motorcycles, race cars, things of that nature. They have a barbecue and some live music. Just a little kind of started out as a block party and has grown significantly since. Public Works has no comments or concerns. Chief Vandewater said he doesn't have any concerns. The only thing that we do provide for them is some extra trash totes.
Any questions for Rick or any staff concerning the street closure?
I would move to approve.
Got a first by Mike and a second by Tony. Any last discussion, public or council?
I just have a quick comment that I would like to say that, once again, the application put forth by Mr. Bruce Bradley is the premier example of how an application should be filled out.
Good job, Tracy.
Yeah,
Yes.
Bruce always makes that clear.
I
It's
mean,
not
Bruce
him.
and Tracy, I know, and I mean, again, it is exactly, it is perfect. Again, thank you for all your hard work in putting this application together.
Any other comments, questions, concerns? We got a first and a second on the floor. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed to no. That resolution passes for street closure. Item 14 is reports. We only have one in this section. This is an SEL for the chamber for a mixer on the 13th here at City Hall. Faye, I've got you down for a brief staff report there.
Okay, and this is actually a consumption permit
Yes,
that we
yes.
allow, and it will be at City Hall on July 13th, and all paperwork has been received.
Any questions for staff on this request by the chamber? Public input, questions, comments, concerns. Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'll move to approve.
Got a first by Dean,
I'll second.
got a second by Preston. Any last discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed to no. That motion carries. Item 15 is other matters that come before the council. Opportunity for non-agenda items to be brought up briefly. Does the public have anything to add tonight to the list? How about claims procedures? Is that on the list? Council have anything to add to other matters tonight?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to talk a little bit about property maintenance.
You bet.
I received some calls recently about unmowed areas and what seems to be inconsistencies within our processes. Actually, nothing really defined. Today, we're not maintaining properties the same that maybe we did, in years past, where every lawn is completely manicured bumper to bumper and front to back. We're using, and this is my term, naturescaping, to leave landscapes more natural, using natural plants. We've got areas that are part of the city that are also not seeing these maintenance. So I'd like to see us have our engineering inspection department come up with a process. I don't think this needs to be a council process. I think it needs to be something through their own actions that allows these changes. We have properties that it does not make sense. The properties in the Hidden Valley area. I mean, they're not going to mow all those pieces, and it would look, in my opinion, poorly if they were mowed. But we do seem to have some inconsistencies, or at least not a way to completely document those when we have these residents come forward with these complaints that maybe somebody isn't maintaining their property properly. I think we could tie into it as well. It was an item we addressed a number of months ago. We're always concerned about drainage. Permeable driveways is another example where we need hard surface driving areas, but there are some modern building materials that allow for a permeable driveway, which is better for our runoffs. So I'm not proposing a process, but I'm asking them to look at that.
Kevin, just a question. What do we do about, or is there a future potential fire danger of large areas that are unmowed? As we get into the fall with dry grass and everything, does that increase the fire danger?
Well, that would be a question probably for our fire department, but it certainly seems like there could be an option with that.
I think, you know, if they're housing developments, and I know what you're talking about, some of these are 40-acre parcels, and it just doesn't make sense to mow them all. But we have to consider if they're in the city, they're creating a potential fire damage problem. So this needs to have a whole lot more study done to it, I think. I don't know how we handle a 30-acre yard.
Well, we probably don't have any 30-acre yards, but we surely have 3-acre yards, I'm sure, in the 3 and 5-acre properties.
I thought some of those properties were 13 to 15 acres up there.
I
No,
can't
don't
answer that, but there's definitely a trend where, you know, these things are happening in other communities, other areas. Some people use it for water conservation, water management, those sorts of things. So it seems like it'd be reasonable for at least, you know, the planning team to come back with some idea.
Guess we'll leave that to planning department then.
Appreciate the discussion.
In whose realm does that fall, Kevin? In whose realm would that fall?
Dave Smith, and I would think that it would come through the infrastructure committee as well, wouldn't it? But if there was a process, I mean, in my opinion only, it seems like that'd be something that planning and permitting, or the planning board would,
Planning and zoning could-
if they needed to have any action, would be capable of adjusting.
For future discussions, for sure. Anything else for other matters?
One last
Yep, go
thing.
ahead.
I know it's late.
Not even-
I've been missing the KPIs, key performance indicators. Since the city managers left, we've had no KPIs. KPIs are the items that help me as a counselor see trends, make decisions. And I hope that's an item that we can start back up sooner rather than later. In fact, I think there's plenty of other KPIs that we can add to provide a bigger snapshot of the situation that we're dealing with. And none of them should be time-consuming to develop because they are the numbers that we already are providing. Just they're compiled in a way that is a graph or a chart rather than a individual monthly report.
Any other items before council tonight? And it can't be late because we still have more exec. So, with none being heard, that brings us to item 16, which is there a motion to return to executive session?
So moved.
Got a first by Preston,
I'll second it.
have a second by Tony. All those in favor of returning to executive session, please indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed to no. We'll go to exec. We'll start in about 4 minutes at the longest.
4 minutes.
Not that I'm counting.
4 minutes.